Hello, hello, hello.
Hi, y'all. How's it going out there? Everyone listening in.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to another week of Jumpcut 107.1.
It's true. Yeah, that's what we're doing.
It is.
I'm pretty excited for this week.
I am too. Last week I showed you a movie that you never saw or heard before. This week you showed me a movie that I have heard of before. Didn't know anything about it. I just knew that Joseph Gordon-Levitt was in it.
Yeah.
And that's all I knew. So I went into it, almost completely blind, and it was honestly such a good time. I really did. Honestly, I did enjoy it. I did.
Yeah. Did you know it was a directorial debut?
I did not know it was a directorial debut. I didn't know who's the director.
It's one of my favorite directors. It is Mark Webb, director of The Amazing Spider-Man.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Amazing Spider-Man nerd.
Yeah.
I know. I've seen your YouTube videos on Spider-Man.
I gotta shout out The Amazing Spider-Man whenever I can.
Speaking of which, Andy did just upload a new YouTube video. Everyone should go check it out.
I'm
it's
blushing.
Really good. It's really good. But yeah, yes. Everyone should go check it out on his YouTube channel.
I told him to say this before we
He
started
actually
recording.
didn't know. He didn't.
I threatened him. I said, if you don't plug me, I'll hurt you.
Yeah, he
with my
did.
fists.
That's what it was. But yeah, no. So for those who don't know what we're talking about 500 Days of Summer.
It is beautiful.
It is a good movie. Yes.
Yeah, let's jump into it.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on it?
So you introduced me. So I am I've shown a couple movies to my girlfriend, like Your Name, and I definitely want to show her. Like, she's seen Marriage Story before, but I'm a big sucker for romance movies, and I think that we talked about Your Name, but I talked about this in my Letterboxd review, is that Your Name is a movie that is very fantastical. It's very fantasy based in this elements of romance and describing a love. And then some of my favorite movies of all time, some I want to show my girlfriend Jordan, like Past Lives. That's a movie that is so phenomenal, but it's a definitely reality based in how romance is. A Marriage Story. Mm-hmm. Those are films that have reality in their romance, especially something like Portrait of a Lady on Fire as well, where even though these two characters love each other, stuff ends up happening where it fails. And so love. One of the quotes that I really like in the movie, it wasn't even in the movie, it's in the description of Letterboxd. It says, this is not a love story, it's a story about love.
Yeah.
And it's a very poignant idea and theme throughout the whole film, and especially hits hard at the end, where it is just a story about love. And so you go into it, the initial point of the entire film, it feels like you are watching a love story. You're like, the editing really gives it to that rom-com-esque feel, where it's going to day 300, going back to day 5, going back to day 428, going back to day 84. And you see these moments of both love and inception of love to failure of love. And the entire time you're just feeling like you're with Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, and feeling his emotions the entire time, because he's our main character. And when I watched this movie, I thought it was like almost a Phineas and Ferb thing, like 500 Days of Summer. Is this there's 400 days of summer vacation? Like, that's what I thought. So yeah, I don't know. That's what I kind of was thinking about. And then I go into it and I see this romance start up and this romance fail, and this romance almost essentially come to this reality of that not all love is perfect, not every human being is perfect. That idea of the conception of love, it's so beautiful and so amazing, and how both people were in the wrong while also both people being in the right, where it's technically a mixture of the other. That love does exist and it's beautiful, but it's not perfect.
Absolutely. And
that's where they both had that need to find that balance, and I think that's what they found at the end.
Yeah. It's definitely a rom-com that its entire purpose is to twist and mold expectations to what is super untraditional for a rom-com.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no big scene of the character running towards the airplane to save the love of his life.
Absolutely. It's a very realistic take, and a really kind of, not sad and tragic, but just kind of like, okay, so for basic plot breakdown, there's a guy, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who works at a greeting card factory, and a new girl.
His name's Tom, by the way.
Tom, yes. Yeah. Tom, a new girl who is Zooey Deschanel, comes in, and
her name is Summer.
And Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Tom, is like, oh my God, she's beautiful. I love her. Tom, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, struggles from what I call the Ted Mosby syndrome.
Yeah.
From Ted Mosby from How I Met Your Mother. He is a chronic lover. That is his entire bit. And what's sad is Summer is so blatantly honest at the beginning of like, hey, I don't want anything serious. I'm not in a place where I want a relationship. And Tom takes that and puts all of these expectations of soulmate, of marriage, of happily ever after, puts all of his expectations onto her. And because the story is told through his perspective, at the end, when things inevitably don't work out, she's seen as the villain because she didn't live up to the expectations that he put in his head. You know?
Yeah, and
which is really sad.
And it's absolutely. So that's something when like, and so I know. So again, like romance movies are literally my favorite genre of movies. Like there's like, and I'm not gonna lie to you, they are. Like this is like beyond anything, beyond fantasy, beyond anything like that. I genuinely think that romance lends itself to the most amount of themes and most amount of like different ideas and expressionism, because I think that love is such a human trait that is not always expressed, and love can be even like further than anything. And one thing I want to talk about is this idea you mentioned, the expectations versus reality scene, which is like, in my opinion, the best scene in the whole movie. It's when it splits the screen. Like they've done the whole movie so prior with like phone calls, and it splits the screen for expectations versus reality, and it's towards the climax of the film, and it's this idea that that his expectations were that she's gonna want him back, she's gonna love him, she's gonna do all these things for him, and then they're gonna get together, they're gonna make love, they're gonna do all this stuff, and the reality of it was that he became a side character to the story, he became a friend, and he became someone that sees that she's engaged. And that expectation versus reality is something I feel like we've all experienced, whether it be in love and romance, or whether it be just in reality, like of like getting a job interview, or having a tough conversation with a friend, or going to class, or hoping for an award. It's that expectation versus reality. It doesn't always have to be about love, but that is something that I feel like is a very human trait, where we envision this amazing sequence happening, like I'm gonna do this crazy thing, I'm gonna go to this one thing, and then all of a sudden it fails in that reality, and that is unfair to whether the outcome, that's unfair to the reality, and that's unfair to the outcome of other people that are involved. And I think that's something that is something very human, and I think I've never seen that in a film before, and I really, really love that scene.
Yeah, the realizing that Joseph Gordon-Levitt is actually the antagonist, I think is very important, because he is standing in his own way. He is putting so much pressure onto the relationship that Summer never wanted, deliberately asked not to.
Yeah.
Just very, very powerful things. And I love how it twists the traditional gender norms of rom-coms, you know?
Yeah.
Like, there's this one scene in the diner. I'm going to butcher this, but she's like, oh, we're like those two musicians. And she's talking about the two musicians where the guy killed the girl. I don't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember the names.
But
Sid's one of them. I never
and then he's like, what? I'm the guy? Just because that's how he
envisioned it. Yeah.
He envisions it. And she's
goes,
like,
no, I
am. I'm the one that's shooting, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's just not working. And here's the thing. You don't need a reason, you know?
And it's true. And that's something that's so inherently great about this film, is that, and that's something I find a lot about these romance films in general, that I've the ones I've expressed, that my three favorites so far have been Marriage Story, a love story told through divorce, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, a love story told through the inevitabilities of society, and then Past Lives, that love story told through the ideas of the past. And all those ideas are also expressed, and then this one is very much an the expectations versus reality kind of story. And I think that's why I liked it so much, is that it told that same reality of these films I like, because like these are all love stories that end badly, same like La La Land as well.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
These are films that are all love stories that end badly, for the quote unquote badly, you know what I'm saying, because it's badly in terms of like we get introduced to our two main characters and they don't end up together at the final sequence. And I think that's something that is so real, is that like I read a review on Letterboxd, and I really liked it. It said like he had an expectation for her to be perfect, but he didn't love the imperfect girl. Yeah. And I think that it's like I thought that was really poignant. I was like, man, I wish I wrote that. And
Convince.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, damn, that's a really good point, because I love my girlfriend Jordan so much, and I'm so lucky to be with her. And I'm like, and that's the idea of like that love that he felt for Summer. I can understand it, you know. It's like he loved someone so much, and then when it didn't work out, it just hurts, you know. And it's like something that like I just like, it's like that's just devastating to watch, because like I can imagine that, like losing that kind of thing. But then he, at that same point, he didn't really truly love her. He loved this idea of her.
Yes. Yeah. He loved the idea of having a happily ever after. He loved the idea of having a perfect girlfriend, of having a wife, of having a family. And he didn't love Summer. He loved the potential of what Summer could do to his life.
Yeah.
Which is, for all of you listening out there, not a way to go about that.
No, absolutely not. And I don't know. This movie, it's, if you go into the expectation of this being simply a rom-com, you're not going to probably like it that much, because it is very much not a rom-com. It's very much a serious take on what romance in life is. Because even that, like, the expectation versus reality goes into his life as being an architect as well. He had this expectation to be this big old architect and like do all these amazing things.
Oh my God, just like Ted Mosby.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. He does like Ted Mosby in that same sense, because I also thought about like that one scene in How I Met Your Mother where he has like that big little thing above him, like of all like the big city. But a long story short is that he has this expectation to be an architect, but the reality is that he was a greeting card maker, and the same idea where he just left that imperfect idea. Like, one thing I found very poignant in them, keep saying poignant, but one idea that I really liked is that he just gave up on romance. And that's one thing I find interesting, is that he gave up on romance because he also gave up on architecture. And it wasn't until that he really thought about what his little sister did, played by Chloe Grace Moretz, said to him.
Incredible in this.
She's fantastic, where he's like, think about the bad stuff. Because he was only thinking about the good things. And it shows us one scene. I wish there were more bad things, because I think that would have been very much like an eye-opener for him a lot more. But he sees like how she reacted at the record store when she didn't listen to his track that she made him, that he made her. And then all of a sudden he also he realizes that she doesn't truly love him. She's just, again, something casual for her. And it's like that he was so in love with her. And when she says at the end, like you were right about like, I found the right person, and that right person isn't me for you. And the one thing I didn't like about the film was the ending of introducing Autumn. I thought that was like, I wish they would have just left it as he eventually finds someone right, because then that was just so tongue-in-cheek, being like, oh, there's Autumn, and I was like, okay.
Dude, wait till you hear about winter.
Yeah, wait till you hear about winter, and then spring.
Spring's my favorite.
Yeah, spring's my favorite. But
Loved the book, hated the movie.
But yeah, nonetheless, I don't know. I just really did not enjoy that very end sequence of it. But other than that, this film was very strong. And I honestly, I want to, like, that's something, like, there was a lot of filmmaking aspects I want to talk about, but I want to let you talk too.
I love the unreliable narrative that is immediately set up.
Because of the back and forth.
Yeah, it's him telling this story to his little sister. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Tom, telling the story to his sister.
Yeah.
And it jumps from, just to explain the title, in case you haven't seen it, he's known Summer for 500 days. And he's like, on day 200 we did this, on 76 we did this. It goes back and forth, it plays with time, it plays with all sorts of, like, it goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And it's him telling this to his sister, and there's two scenes that really stick out where he tells the same exact story, one from the positive aspect and one from the negative aspect of when they were both together and apart, you know?
Yep.
Like, when they were together, he's like, oh, she's perfect, she did this, and it was just the most beautiful thing ever. And then when they're broken up, he tells the same exact story, and he's like, she did this, it was gross, disgusting, can't believe she would do something like this, and that, you know?
Yeah.
It sets up that he is a very unreliable narrator.
I love her heart birthmark. I hate her cockroach-shaped birthmark.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. It's like that he is an unreliable narrator because he is feeling so many emotions, because he has those moments of like when you first see like the movie or something like that, it's like this idea that he is this idea where like, oh my God, we're gonna go see a great movie called The Graduate, and the entire time he's looking at her reaction and she's crying.
Yeah.
Have you seen The Graduate before?
I haven't.
Okay, so the ending of The Graduate showcases this character running away with a runaway bride, and it's this idea that in the beginning of the film it says like a character taking too much away from The Graduate, because The Graduate is very much a story that is about like almost too good to be true. He runs away with his true love as a wife, and it's like, and at the end of the day, the whole point of the film is like that is too good to be true. Like the whole idea of that entire movie is that was too good to be true, and that's why I think that she was crying, and that's why he was looking at her, because I think that in that whole moment is that he was realizing that like that's like he loves that movie so much or whatever, and then like he realizes she's in his mind taking the wrong aspect out of it. And I think that for him, that's one of those bad moments, remembering the bad moments. And but then he also talks about how much, again, it's the idea of an unreliable neighbor is pretty strong, because there is so much of that introduction of he's literally telling a story through a musical after the first night that he sleeps with her, and it's like, oh, la 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 la, and then the next scene is him coming up the elevator with messy hair, and he's heartbroken wearing sunglasses. Yeah, it's those contrasting points where they're so hyper. What's the word? When it's overdone. I'm trying to think of it. Hyper. I don't know what the
extended.
Extended is a better word. I don't know. There's it's like hyperbole in a lot of ways, where he's telling a hyperbolic story where it's like, oh, I had this amazing time, and like this is the first time we ever were truly together, and it's so intimate, and then bam, like now we hate each other and she broke up with me. And like that's like the so alternate, because it's literally a musical and then it's literally a tragedy all in like about 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's really funny. I love seeing just the contrast in all sorts of it, just jumping from days to day is there's several really funny moments like that, and it's, I don't know. I love hearing, because this is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah,
like,
no, I saw that you have a 5-star review of it on Letterboxd. Yeah,
it's true. Yeah. I love hearing people talk about it who's like seen it for the first time.
I've literally
never
seen it. Yeah, this is like so. And so the crazy thing is that I'm watching this movie, and I literally knew nothing about this film besides it starred I didn't even know Zooey Deschanel was in it, but it starred Joseph Gordon-Levitt. That's all I knew. And seeing moments of it, and like the very beginning tells a story of a narrator. There's a third-party voice that's in the film, and you feel like, oh, okay, this character is describing Tom's character, and then you get introduced to more characters, and it feels so rom-com-esque, because he's his one best friend that has a love that he's been with since 7th grade, and he's his other best friend who's literally never been with a person.
Yeah.
And then he has all these moments of like, oh, clarity, and like it's like so like almost like love struckenness where they're walking through IKEA pretending to be husband and wife.
Yeah.
And then there's that one sequence where he's like, honey, our sinks aren't working. She just kind of scoffs at him, and it's another one of those moments where it's back and forth. And you sometimes see this beforehand, and then you see the happiness, and then sometimes you see the happiness and then the negativeness. And then one thing I really want to talk about is the editing of this film. And so
it's beautiful.
Yeah, so that's one thing, is like I think that everyone could talk about strong acting, strong performances, strong directing, strong music, whatever. This also has a pretty good score and music supervision. But the thing that I think is the strongest in this film, even more than its acting, is its editing. Because it is really hard to tell this story, especially with that idea of that expectation versus reality, and then that before and after, while also making it all seamless. And I think that's really impressive. I'm going to look up the editor while, like, I guess, like, we just talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, I think the editing is great. I think the only other thing that I had to say about the characters is I love how, because it's told through Tom's perspective, you're avidly rooting for him to get with Zooey Deschanel.
Yeah,
like, there's no second perspective. She has zero voice in this movie whatsoever.
No.
There's not a single scene where you get to know what she's thinking, what she's feeling.
She's never alone in any scene.
Ever. Yeah.
We only ever get Joseph Gordon-Levitt alone. And there's one scene that, like, I think is kind of funny, is when he's in, like, he's in the bathroom, and she's like, she's just a girl, she's all this, and it's like that, where you realize that is his story.
Yeah.
Because it's no one else's. Even his friends, like, he's never left alone. Like, he's always told from his perspective. And I think that's why it becomes an unreliable narrator. And I think that's one strong thing in cinema, is just having that unreliable narrator, because it allows for, again, that more expressive kind of like storytelling, because then you can do both sides of things all the time. But again, these characters are very strong because they do feel human. They don't feel unrealistic. And sure, they have unrealistic moments because it is still a movie and it has rom-com-esque ideas into it. And they do still feel like very real characters, and especially towards the end, they do.
Yeah, I love how you can, I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm just actually insane. But I love watching this movie and being like, oh, I understand exactly why they hired Mark Webb to do Spider-Man. I understand completely.
Why do you say that?
At its core, The Amazing Spider-Man is not a superhero movie. The character of Spider-Man is not superhero movies. It's not an action movie. It's a dramatic character analysis. That's what every Spider-Man comic is. That's what every Spider-Man movie should be. Because the standout in The Amazing Spider-Man is Andrew and Gwen. And
Okay,
every
yeah.
single time, even people who don't like the movie, the things that they say they love about the movie is the bond between Andrew and Gwen. You hear things like, oh, you can tell that they dated in real life. Oh,
Yeah.
you feel the chemistry of all, and that's because of the fantastic writing and direction from Mark Webb.
Yeah. Honestly, I mean, as someone who's seen that movie, and I do like Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield's performances, and that's definitely the strongest point of Amazing. And then, like, obviously, what's the hardest part of Amazing too is her death.
Yeah.
And spoiler for TASM 2, if you've not seen it, that's in TASM 2. I'm not going crazy. That's what the
that's in
electro.
TASM 2.
Yeah. But yeah, and what else has Mark Webb directed?
I think it's just the well, that was his first one, was 500
Yeah.
Days of Summer. Amazing Spider-Man was his second one.
Yeah.
And he's done like music videos and stuff.
Okay.
But since then, I don't think
Too many big things. You can
Yeah,
look it up. Also,
I can look.
The editor for this film, by the way, was let me pull it up. Alan Edward Bell.
Classic Alan.
I never heard of him before. I've never heard of him before, but he did a really good job on this film. But yeah, nonetheless, the fantastic editing in this entire film, because I don't know, we see these two characters throughout the entire movie, and it's always told from the perspective of Tom. And then we see even moments of this one character talking to his friends, and his friends hyping him up and being like, "This is the girl you've been talking about for weeks, all this
Yeah.
loving stuff." And the end of the film is so strong, and I think that's what okay. The very end of the film is where I have problems with, but like the after the climax film where he decides to become an architect, decides to go all these firms, and he sits down in his suit at the hill that he showed her. I think that's one of the best parts of the movie, because he kind of like sees her again, and she's married, and that's one of the hardest things as you as an audience member, because you're watching this film from his perspective, and you really wanted them to get together. You did. I'm not gonna lie, even though you kind of start to realize that he might be in the wrong when that one girl he went on a blind date with was like, she told you all this up front, and you're like, yeah, and like you kind of start to realize that he isn't in the right, but you still, at the end of the day, it's like it's a rom-com, and you're trying to root for this guy, and you see her, and it's the same idea of past lives, where you're just like, you want her to divorce that guy and like end up together. But that's not the reality of it. She fell in love, and she actually fell in love with someone else that we never get to see. We get to see his hands, and I found that very important that we never get to see him, because that's her story. It's her own world. She fell in love with him because of all the ideas that happen in their reality. It's because coincidences happen. Sometimes you work at a place and you find the love of your life. Sometimes you are going to a coffee shop and you find the love of your life. Sometimes you're just walking down the street. Sometimes friends introduce you. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's all gonna be coincidences, and the coincidences and ideas were true for him, but were never true for her, and he never took that into account. And that's when she finally says that, in that one line I said earlier of like you never really I wasn't that person for you, but like this person that I met at a coffee shop randomly one day while reading a book was that person for me.
Yeah.
And so I think that idea was really just, I don't know. It's like, that's what I think is strong in the film, because it's like, that's in my opinion, like that idea of like, oh, that heartbreak was the strongest at that moment. So
I think what's really important is throughout the film, there's talk about him wanting to become an architect. I want to be an architect, blah, 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 blah. But then when he starts dating Summer, it morphs into, I want to be an architect because you don't deserve to be with a guy who just does cards, right?
Yeah.
And then when he breaks up with Summer, he becomes an architect for himself. And
Yeah.
I think that's really, really important. And if I want to put in like a little personal anecdote here, like that's something that I think I deal with all the time with my girlfriend,
Yeah.
who's incredible and I love her. But she, all the time I'll be like, oh yeah, maybe I should start going to the gym, which I do, in case you can't tell. She's like, just
He is
chiseled. But a few months ago, I'm like, yeah, maybe I should start going to the gym. I think it would be cool if, I think word for word what I said is, I think it would be cool if you had a boyfriend who was jacked. And I don't remember exactly what she said, but she basically picked apart my entire sentence. It was just like, what, like, one, that was a stupid thing to say. Two, like, if you're going to go to the gym for someone else, you might as well not go, because, and she basically laid out right in front of me, right in front of my eyes, like, hey, if you want to do something to improve your life, don't do it for me, because you have to do it for you, know?
Yeah, that's a
and I
very good
think
point.
that is great, and it's something that I've been working on for a while and really learning from, and I love seeing because I don't know how much this happens in other relationships, but it's something that happens with me all the time. I'm like, oh, I want to be this type of person so that my girlfriend can tell her friends, and then she'll be proud of me. And like a lot of what I do can be tunneled back to like, oh, I want to make her proud. I want her, because I don't want her to be like, oh yeah, my boyfriend, he's just in college. He
Yeah,
does
no,
nothing,
absolutely. I
So
guess I get
I
that,
try
yeah.
to do a bunch of things to try to get her to be like, oh yeah, my boyfriend's super cool, instead of doing them for me.
And the thing is at the end of the day, when you do them for you, that's what like our partners are really caring about. Because I can truly say I felt that same idea of wanting to do maybe something because of like maybe oh, my girlfriend would be so like, oh, it'd be cool to look at this, but like at the end of the day, my girlfriend loves me for me. That's not, and it's like and I think that's what like the things that I want to do. If I want to do them, my girlfriend is gonna love them. But if I'm doing them specifically just for her, I'm doing it for someone else.
Yeah, and that's such a very specific instance, but I've never seen a film tackle something as specific and as like close to my relationship. You know?
No, absolutely.
Which was really nice.
And I think that I don't know, that's where going back to this idea. It's a story about love, not a love story, because it truly is a story about love disguised as a love story.
Yeah.
I think that's a better way to put it,
Yeah.
because we do feel like so much love in the film and so much rooting for this one character, because you can look at so many rom-coms and so many ideas of a movie where it's like, oh, they are going to end up together, or all these ideas of Hallmark movies where all these characters are inevitably going to end up together. They are. Like, we know it from the beginning. And then where I love these other movies, like I said, like your Past Lives or Marriage Story, is you don't know. Like, at the end of the day, you don't know. Have you seen Past Lives yet?
I haven't.
It's
no.
it's
been on my list for.
Hey, we'll watch it for the Oscars.
For Oscars, yeah.
We'll watch it for the Oscars. But at the end of the day, that film is a very big idea about reality, the reality of what a relationship can be and about the past. And that's where I want to talk about, like, this film, where it talks about the reality of expectations versus reality.
Yes.
Because every movie has its own themes and its ideas of love, and sometimes they can be repeated between films. And a lot of rom-coms are just dealing with that idea of love at first sight. We're going to actually get together. Maybe we're different people, And that's where I disagree, because I think that rom-coms have their own unique element of being an enjoyable movie. If you just want to sit down and with a couple friends, maybe a girlfriend, maybe a partner, maybe a boyfriend, and just watch something easy, enjoyable, but at the end of the day, it's not going to be super substantial. And this is where I think this film is substantial, because it does add that expectation versus reality theme into what it's introducing. It's not just all lovey-dovey, we're going to end up together.
It starts a conversation.
Yeah.
Whether it's internal or external. I walk away from this movie thinking, okay, I'm in a relationship. Here's a very, very good example of things that made him super self-destructive, and it lost everything. Am I doing any of those things? What can I do to be better? What can I do to learn from something like this? And it sounds crazy, like this is a fictional movie. You don't really learn relationship advice from real-life movies. That's not something that I'm used to doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this is. I've learned a ton from this movie, and I think it's really important to have realistic stories, because not every single relationship is going to be Harry and Sally,
No, not every single relationship is going to be The Notebook.
Exactly.
Because while those movies have their own values and honestly values and enjoyment, I love The Notebook.
I love Harry and Sally.
I'm unapologetically a fan of The Notebook. Or even Titanic, where those movies where it is,
I'm flying.
Yeah, exactly, where it is almost fantastical. It's like almost unrealistic in the terms of they fall in love immediately. There's no imperfections.
Like Frozen. In Frozen, the twist of Hans and Anna falling in love.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's the idea is because people are imperfect. And to love a perfect idea of someone is not fair to that person. And to love a perfect idea of anything is not fair to that idea.
Absolutely.
And so he had a perfect idea of what life was going to be like for him, and it wasn't that.
Yeah.
And he stops living for that.
Yeah.
Because his only idea is life is oh, I just need to find the perfect relationship and then I'll be perfect again.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's fair, because look at both of us. Me and you are probably, our perfect reality is being writers, directors, being in the film industry, some way or another. And that might not be always the reality immediately, and we have to have that realistic expectation, but also having those dreaming. You got to balance the two, where you can't have unrealistic expectations, but you can't have a forced negative idea of a reality, where she has that negative idea of reality and he has the unrealistic expectations, and they finally meet in the middle, where coincidences happen that give you somewhat of a unexpected, unpredictable, or unrealistic expectations, but also giving you some of the reality.
Yeah, I love the thought of he feels like there's a giant thing missing in his life, and he feels like it's a girlfriend. And I don't know, I feel like if you can't, if you aren't happy a relationship won't make you happy. You know,
No.
it is impossible to love somebody else unless you love yourself. You know,
That's a very good point. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think what happens a ton, and especially in this movie, is, and none of this is said. All of this is me implying or making it up. But it's like, oh, he doesn't love himself, and he loves Summer. But because he doesn't love himself, he loves Summer so much that he hates himself because he can never live up to Summer, and then that is the inevitable downfall of the entire relationship.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
He's standing in his own way.
He 100% is standing in his own way because all he wants is said from the very beginning with that whole like what do they do, like the beginning of the narrator is like, as a kid he's like oh my god, this is like his parents eventually did get divorced, but he still loves love so much, but her parents were divorced at such a young age and she cuts her hair off, she doesn't feel nothing. Like it's extremes on both sides. And even his friends are extremes on both sides, where he's had one friend that's been in love since 7th grade and one friend that's never had love. And so all he knows is like, I need to be the middle ground. I need to find this love and be like that one for the friend. And then also he needs to be that one person that's like, I am always going to find love. And again, I always sound like, sometimes I sound like broken records, but that is where I find this film has such value, and I think that romance films can do it better than anything else because they can allow for themes to be expressed that aren't just about romance and love, but about life. Because we talked about something like Secret Life of Walter Mitty, which is a very much life movie. It's about life, and then we talked about movies like Your Name, which is a very fantastical idea of romance. And then we've also talked about themes of family and things of this. But romance films can put this idea of going out there and having an expectation about life and romance and love and all these emotions that are interwoven with it, and then having a reality smashed to pieces and then rebuilt again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love I don't know, I feel like I just take so many lessons from this movie, which is crazy. Like there's like not even about romance and love, just like the world keeps spinning, you know? You can't stop it.
Nope.
Regardless of any bad thing that happens. You still go from, I think they break up on day like 300 or something.
Yeah.
Like day 301 happens, 302, 400, 450. The world keeps spinning. You can't stop it.
Yeah.
You know, you can learn from it, but you can't go back.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's even in regards to like, oh, I had a job interview. I didn't get the job. If only I could go back and say these things. And I think it's really easy in mistakes in life, whether it's breaking up with someone, not getting a job, a major, homework, like it's very easy to like look back and think, wow, I didn't do that right. If only almost like a video game, like a dialogue tree, like, oh, if I said this and then they said this and then it's just, you get lost. You know?
That's why I think this idea of 500 days, and that's why I think it's kind of funny they put 500 days in parentheses in the title, which is to its own right, its own argument why they did that. But one thing I think that is so cool about that aspect of storytelling is that it's a long time. It's more than a year.
Yeah.
And a lot of times mistakes feel like they are short. Like oh, I didn't put on pants for work today. That's a funny example, but like, you know, like where you do a small mistake that is ultimately like low consequence, like you just need to go fix something quickly. But in reality, the mistakes that happen most in our lives are something that were built up. Like for instance, like sometimes some people might think that their major was a mistake. I know that a couple people in my life have thought that like their majors were a mistake. My roommate has expressed that once before, where he's like, yeah, I mean, I feel like I just didn't choose the right major, and I like now I'm too far in. I feel like a mistake. But at the end of the day, life keeps going, and he has amazing opportunities ahead of him that I'm genuinely so proud of. And he's made mistakes in his life, sure, but we've all come back from it. I say that same thing. I felt like I wasted a year of college because of a major. I made a mistake. But like at the end of the day, life keeps going on. And I had this expectation of prior to college be this crazy film student that's going to USC. I didn't get in.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah,
I thought I deserved to. No.
Exactly.
Guess
but then,
not.
And then I found love with the film department here at NAU, and I am very excited to forward my career in the film industry and like do whatever I can because the life keeps going on. And sure, I have all these fantastic expectations, but I've also had failures and I've had mistakes. But like you just said, the world keeps going on. And that's where I think that this film does express that very well. It's like the world, dude, you're not going to get Summer. You didn't. She's married. World keeps going on. You spent that 500 days with her. It's okay.
Yeah.
Everything's okay.
Yeah. And I love how the story isn't over at day 300 or whatever when they break up.
Yeah.
You know? Because that's not when their story is over. Even though they're not a part of each other's lives, it still affects him and it still determines what he does, who he talks to. It's still very much weighing on him. And
how he reacts at work, how he is at work. I can't say the word here because we're on air, but like he goes, the card says something like something blank and blank fu like
Oh yeah,
like door.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
can't say the words on air, but it's a very funny.
We love
line.
you, FCC.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, I'm just making sure I'm not doing anything. But it's like, he's like, roses are red, violets are blue. Guess what?
Yeah.
A word I can't say that rhymes with door.
Yeah.
Like, I can't say that word on air, but like, I thought that was a very funny line because it affects his work.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really sad to see his slow like
Descent,
fall
yeah.
from what he was at the beginning when him and Summer were pretending to be husband and wife in IKEA, and that's one of the cutest scenes in all of cinema. And they're like, "Oh my God, look at honey, there's a
There's a Chinese family in our restroom.
in our kitchen or something,"
kitchen, yeah.
and then it's just like other people shopping. Yeah,
IKEA, and I think that is just like
It's
so
so
charming
beautiful.
because it's just like it's the idea that allows you have that fantastical elements of that rom-com ass thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, let's be real, like I just went on a fantastic aquarium date with my girlfriend, and I felt those feelings.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. It's so you're on your own world and it's beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
and you get to see that in this film, and then you also get to see the reality of arguments. You get to see like relationships aren't perfect. So many times in rom-coms they have that one argument, they break up, and then they get back together and they love each other. No, this film has so many ideas of small things that might start an argument, small things that might hurt your feelings, like her not listening to that first track on the album, not knowing that band, and that hurt his feelings, but he let it go because he was so in love with her, and he forgot about it till his sister says, "Hey, you think about the bad things," because a lot of times you might fall in love with the wrong person, or you might make a mistake, and you need someone to wake you up in those ideas. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's hard for creative people, and I'm speaking for myself here. I don't want to, but I assume that most creative people do this. Of Ted being an architect, and it's not Ted. Yeah, Ted.
From How I Met Your Mother.
Not How I Met Your Mother.
Tom.
Tom being an architect, he's a very creative person, and I have such a warped view of reality.
Yep.
I'm like, okay, I don't see myself as an actual person. I see myself in a character in a greater story, and I'm like, okay, what would my character do that's most interesting for the plot? And if you aren't a creative person, you probably think I'm crazy, and you're right. But like, in my head, I think like, oh, what can I do to further the plot? What would my character do to make this story interesting? I don't see life as real. I see it as a story, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that Tom is the same exact way of like, in IKEA, perfect example. He's creative. He's creating a story of what he wants his life to be, and he's doing everything in his power to put his life exactly where he wants to be, regardless of who he's hurting, you know? Because Summer is so, like, blatantly honest. She's like, I don't want a relationship. I don't want anything serious.
She says that in IKEA, funny enough.
Yeah, she's just, like, so blatant about it, but he puts the title of soulmate onto him, or onto her, without asking her, just, like, his own personal headcanon of, like, okay, this is who it is, and any time that she strays away from that character trait that I just gave her,
because she's the villain.
Yes, because she is a character. She is not a real person.
Yep.
She is a character in my story. She is the soulmate that I decided, and she has to abide by that.
She has to be the one. She has to be the one.
Yeah.
And I love the idea that you talked about creative people, because I told my girlfriend Jordan this is something funny about me, and I always tell people this, and I've told people this my whole life. Everywhere I am, I always see a camera in my life. I think of myself as the main character of my story, and no matter where I am at any moment, I'm like, there's a camera decoring my life. I know there's not. Obviously, right now there literally is, but like in my life, I've always been like, there is a camera somewhere, because I want to create so many stories, whether it be fantastical, fantasy elements, or about reality. And I have so many ideas that I want to express, and that's a creative mindset where he is creating that idea of, like, oh my God, we're a couple in IKEA, honey, our sink's not working. And like that kind of thing is like he is a creative person that in a lot of ways lost his way. But like that one scene where he's creating every greeting card perfectly because he is a creative person. He's a smart dude. Yeah. Because that's what his true life purpose is to be a creative.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm the same way with the whole camera bit. I see myself in a story of, like, the world as a story, you know? My roommate Adam and I, we have this thing where, it started last semester. We went to this restaurant here in Flagstaff called Galaxy Diner.
Oh, I love Galaxy Diner.
And in my head, I'm like, okay, this is a set. This is a set for a sitcom. And I talked to Adam about it for maybe don't want to exaggerate here, maybe 26 hours. I talk to him like nonstop all the time of like, hey, this is a set. We have to come here every morning. This is great for establishing shots. The lighting's really cool. Like, and I just nerd out like about like all of it. And he's listening. He's so sweet. He like dealt with it. But we go to Galaxy Diner all of the time just to ease my hyperactive brain of like, okay, it's too expensive to build new sets, so that's why I never go back to my old dorm, because that set probably got destroyed in between season 2 and season 3, and that's
actually so funny about
it's a
Galaxy
whole bit,
Diner
yeah.
because I know I've told you this before, but so by the way, we're hyper shout-outing Galaxy Diner here. If in Flagstaff,
they love it when we film in there. It's their favorite thing.
Yes. No, but Galaxy Diner is. I thought this the same thing because I give my roommate a bunch of crap for this one year because it was my birthday, but he didn't bring money, so I had to pay for his meal. And I was like, that'd be like the start of a sitcom episode.
Yeah.
And like I'm like Galaxy Diner is in my idea is one of the most perfect ideas for like a start because I love that diner aesthetic and I agree. Like we like that creative mindset. It's so funny because you said that because I think that Galaxy Diner is like the perfect place to have that start of like location or be that central location for a character. And so many times like I love this idea that I'm a regular at a pizza shop right now because like I'm like, oh my god, like I'm one of the recurring characters in their story and I'm one of like I'm the main character of mine. I don't know, stuff like that. And I think that a lot of people can think that in a lot of their own ways, and it's everyone I think is a creative in some manner or another, but that idea of kind of constantly thinking that we are the main characters of our story and like how there's a camera and there's crossover episodes or there's movies where things happen. I don't know. I think that all the time, and it's hard to ever shake that. And I love that. I mean, obviously we've talked about this before, but like that we have that same idea and that we can share this idea with this one character, and where we want to avoid his flaws. We want to avoid the flaws of Tom because at the end of the day, he is a flawed character that ends up coming towards a reality towards the end. And he's only like, 26 years old in the film, which is like an age we're slowly approaching ourselves.
That's scary.
Oh, my God, yeah. We no longer get parents' insurance.
But I'm so excited to pay for my health insurance.
But yeah, long story short, it's like the reason I like this movie and the reason I've liked a lot of these movies is like, honestly, I think come to think of it, almost every romance movie I've seen, and maybe it's because directors and writers are in the film industry are telling stories that they think that are of creatives. They think that creatives are only like-minded things. Like a Marriage Story, you have Adam Driver's character and Scarlett Johansson's character who are director and actors, creative people.
La La Land.
La La Land.
Yeah.
You get two creative people. It's that idea that creatives, in a lot of ways, in this film, he's an architect and I can't remember what she does, but she's in the greeting card company, but she doesn't really talk about what she does after that. But long story short is that there is this idea that there are so many expectations that we built up in our lives because of how many examples we've seen, but not also how many times we want to create those examples in our mind.
Absolutely. It's all about balance, you know? Like, I think you need a certain level of creativity and chart your own course, and you need to have a certain level of expectation on, like, here's where I want my life to go, here's all the steps I need to take to get there. But it's also a balance of I'm not the only person in existence. You know? These aren't NPCs. There's not like a specific ending to this. That nothing's. I don't know. I don't believe that things are predetermined. I
don't either. I think fate is something that is like a human way to cope with reality.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it'll make people stop panicking, which is great. But I think you can. There's a couple of quotes that I love. There's one from Treasure Planet. It's you got to chart your own course, stick to it no matter the squalls, and when the time comes that you get to something in your sails, I get to see the light shining off you that day. And he's like, the point of that quote is like, hey, you can literally do whatever you want, you know? And another one is from Kermit the Frog of life's like a movie, write your own ending, keep believing, keep pretending, we've done just what we've set out to do, thanks to the lovers, the dreamers, and you. And I've kept those two quotes so close to me my entire life of like, hey, here's where I want to go. This is my story. I'm going to do this, you know? And I think this movie really teaches me like, hey, you need to have a balance, you know? You need to have a certain level of drive to achieve anything in life. But at the same time, like hyper fixating on a fictional TV show that doesn't exist in your head isn't that, you know?
No, I absolutely agree. And I love the point that you just said there, those two quotes, because so many times, like, I like making jokes that people around me are NPCs or idea. Like, me my roommate Sam do that all the time. And at the end of the day, everyone is their main character.
Yeah.
Everyone is. And it's everyone, like, there's this idea, like, that TikTok has started, main character syndrome.
Yeah.
And but the thing is, I don't find anything wrong with it. Because I think everyone should treat themselves as the main character in their story. And then they should, as he said with Kermit the Frog, keep writing their own endings. Because at the end of the day, we're all humans and we're all in this story together. And sure, some people are worse than others. There are evil humans in this world.
Yeah.
And there are bad people in this world.
Hey, bad people.
Don't be bad.
Cut it out.
Stop it.
Just quit it.
Stop
Come
being
on.
bad.
Come on now. Cut that out.
And I think that this movie expresses, like, that he treated her as a villain. When she, at the end of the day, is her own person. She is her own main character. She is.
She doesn't have a voice in the film at all.
No, because at the end of the day, she's telling her own story, and maybe that didn't involve him, but she did teach her stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she expresses that, and that's where I think that she viewed him as someone important in her life, but not the end goal. And then she ended up meeting someone that she did truly love.
If in the hypothetical that there's a sequel or whatever about from Summer's perspective, I wouldn't be surprised if Tom is not a huge part of that movie. You know?
No, exactly. I think that it'd be someone that she learned from, absolutely, but not someone that's the end all be all, and that's something that can happen with relationships. Sometimes they just don't work out, you know. And you never know. You never can know from the start. Day one, it's impossible.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, you can't set unrealistic expectations, but you also can't set negative expectations as she had. And so finding that balance between the two of them, and then also addressing that into your life and teaching yourself those moments, whether you're a creative or not a creative, is something that I think this movie wants to teach you. And what's the director's name?
Mark Webb.
Mark Webb,
the director of The Amazing Spider-Man, that I'm contractually obligated to bring up every chance I get.
And I think that it's something that he wanted to express, and I really did find so many moments of that beautiful. And that idea of, we have yet to find a movie that we both don't like yet. Because I introduced him to Ernest Celestine, he introduced me to this, and I liked it. I liked this movie a lot. And but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, oh man, I lost my point.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I think in the same way that Tom is a lover, that Ted Mosby is a lover. Like, I feel like excited to know that that's like a real thing that isn't just me, you know. I love my girlfriend. I love telling her I love my girlfriend, you know. I love doing stupid little corny things to show. Like, even just today, do you know what I did?
What?
My girlfriend doesn't watch anime. She doesn't have a problem with anime, but she's just super busy. I made a 26 PowerPoint slide presentation on why my girlfriend and I should watch anime together.
That's so cute.
And it's just little things like that I love doing, you know? And I don't know. It's fun. And I'm pretty sure, I could be making this up, so fact check it, but I'm pretty sure I read something somewhere that this movie was a personal experience that happened with Mark Webb.
I believe it.
It's a personal thing.
I believe it, and because a lot of times we all think we're all main characters. And don't get me wrong, I have told my girlfriend that things that have happened in our lives. I'm like, oh my god, this scene would be perfect in a movie. Like, I've thought that before.
Oh,
I absolutely
absolutely
have, and I've told her that before. And I love doing cute things for the idea of me building Legos with her. I'm like, oh god, or like
montage.
Exactly. That's like
I know what song we should play. Hold on, stop building the Lego. Pause. Let me put on the song for the montage.
Exactly like that. And I can totally see where this director is coming from, because it's like, I've been writing the same film for years now, and it's something that I've wanted to do for so long. And I take elements of my life, and I take elements of movies, and I take elements of my friends' lives, and it's all like a mush, and I'm trying to perfect it, because at the end of the day, I can't just make it about my life, or I can't make it about someone else's life, or I can't make it about movies. I need to make it its own story. And that's where this film teaches you that idea that, like, you can be a dreamer and you can have these expectations, but you also need to set them into some sense of reality, but also live them to your own real world, and treat everyone equally.
Absolutely. I think it's very clear that even if this wasn't a personal experience with Mark Webb, I think he's had something very similar happen, because you can only write what you know. You know?
That's something, because look at Marriage Story. It's about the director's life. Look at Past Lives. It's somewhat about the director's life and experiences.
And even looking at that plus Spider-Man plus another Mark Webb movie, Gifted, they're all about love, like platonic love, family love, love with a significant other. Like every movie that he has ever directed, and he's about to direct Snow White.
Oh, really?
The new Snow White that's coming out. It's directed by Mark Webb. All of them are about love to a certain extent. So it is very clear that Mark Webb is a lover, you know?
Yeah.
You can't write what you don't know. If I can't, like, zero part of me can write a movie right now about spies
Spy movie,
or
yeah.
the Holocaust or something like that
Yeah.
without it sounding like an actual essay, you know?
Yeah.
I can write an essay about anything, but
Yeah.
I can't write a story about anything because I can only pull from my own experiences.
Yeah,
in
like
life.
that's like how I feel. Like I'm like someone's like, oh, why don't you just write a movie about like the ones that are doing well? It's like a superhero movie. I'm like, well, I don't know. I can't. I don't want to write an action movie because I'm like not really. Like that stuff in my life isn't something that I really truly can think I can talk about. I don't know. I just like that. I don't think I'm experienced in it. I think there's people that do that are really talented, but it's just not for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Also
yeah.
running low on time. I noticed.
Oh yeah.
We do have a time limit here because this is not our studio. For those
Not
watching,
yet.
not yet.
If you want to Venmo us, link in
We will-
description. We will buy the Kjack booth.
We will buy NAU.
We'll buy NAU.
We will buy
form a
NAU.
monopoly.
We will. It actually is on Flagstaffopoly. Funny enough, it's one of the. It's
Wow.
right after free parking. Funny enough.
I have never played Flagstaffopoly.
It's a great game. I lost horribly last time I played it, but sorry, we're going in rants. But
Yeah.
I think the next time you're gonna hear from us actually will be Oscars talking because we
Wow.
are. It's only about 2 weeks away now.
Yeah, I'm very
But
excited.
we're not gonna be on Monday next week. We'll have to figure out another time.
Okay.
Because but we'll talk about that later on our own time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Follow
don't
the
think-
Instagram for more information.
Yeah, follow Instagram for more information. Anything else, Sandy?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Yeah. Well, have a great Monday. I'm stalling so I can play the outro music.
Have a wonderful time. For those who don't know, Oscars are coming up. The SAG Awards this past weekend. Congratulations to all the award winners who don't listen to this podcast, but thank you. Anyways, I think your movies and work is talented and awesome.
Yeah. Have a good one, you guys. See you.
Have a good one.
See
Bye-bye.
you later.